everybody. Welcome to the Hello Road Podcast, episode 28. And we talk about unique and forgotten cars and road trips and travel destinations. And if you've been listening for a long time, you've already know what we're all about. I'm Ethan.
I'm Paul.
And today is a Q&A episode. We haven't done one of those in a maybe a month or so. So I feel like it's time to dive back in.
Yeah, they're tons of fun to do. And we really appreciate everybody giving us fun questions to answer.
Yes, there were a lot of good ones, like there usually are. There were a lot of good ones this time from Instagram. Most of them from Instagram. I got a few on Facebook. And actually, this time around, we got 0 on Twitter. I don't know what's going on there. Everybody's too busy, dealing with politics on Twitter and getting all angry, I think. So, none on Twitter this time. Oh, well, that's fine. Oh, well. That's okay. It's okay. We got some really good ones from the Grams. So, I don't have a whole lot of updates on my vehicles. We kind of did that a little bit last week. So maybe we should just dive right into these cues.
Sounds good. I don't have anything new to report either. So, let's go ahead and dive right in.
You didn't buy that other Daihatsu that's for sale?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. And what about that one that's in the junkyard? You didn't get any parts off of that?
It has a parcel shelf on it, which I'd be really interested to get, but it's probably cheaper and easier to kind of just make my own and more fun to make my own.
Okay.
Unless it's got the coveted armrest that I'm always after. But I should email them. Does it have the armrest? So we'll see.
Yeah, nothing really has gone on with my vehicles recently other than I got my Nova twin cam washed and I took some nice photos of it. Yeah.
Yes.
That's about all I did. I actually just washed it and drove it around a little bit. And, that problem with the idle where it was kind of like revving nonstop doesn't do it anymore. It just decided to stop doing that. So I was about ready to replace the throttle position sensor.
Yes.
And I took off the clip and I was about ready to put it on and I couldn't get the old one off. So I'm like, I was right before work, so I didn't have enough time. And then I plugged it back in and then it was fine.
You just had to jiggle it. That's all.
Exactly. Yeah, so it still has a really old rusted on throttle position sensor. So it's fine.
I just needed a good jiggle.
Yes,
it's good
exactly.
Now. So
I did spray a little WD-40 on it, so maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know.
A jiggle and some, never mind. I don't even want to go down that road.
No, okay. We don't need to do that.
No.
Okay, so let's dive right into these questions.
Yeah.
So the first one that we got from Be Real Swan on Instagram. Question is, under $30,000, under $30,000, lightly used or a new car that's rear wheel drive, stick and fun. Why don't you kick this one off?
Oh, well, lightly used.
Or new.
Lightly used. I was looking at it as maybe low mileage because I was looking at some of the older cars. Like there's on Bring a Trailer, I saw earlier this week there was a 93 Nissan 240SX that had 26,000 original miles on it, and
it's old but lightly used.
Used.
Yes.
It did sell for $20,000.
Oh, wow.
Which is quite a bit of money, but at the same time, that's a good car. It gets a lot of flack for being a drifter's first attempt, or their teaching car to teach them how to drift. So a lot of them are banged up and been very peculiar modifications put on them.
Yeah.
So
or just bumpers removed
but in its stock or near stock form, even with that motor that comes in at the KA24, it's a good car, I think, and it's fun. I've driven a couple of them with the KA engine in them, and they're fun cars. It's just everybody thinks that it's just it's horrible. You got to have the turbo, and I've driven one with a turbo SR20 in it before, and it's a ton of fun. But KA's, it's a fine engine. It's a good car. It's a good. I guess we could say it's kind of like an equivalent to what an FRS or whatever Toyota 86, whatever the hell it's called, is now. Where it's kind of like it's a driver's car, like a Miata in a way, but
definitely,
but super 90s. So I think that would be a good choice, and another real quick one to touch on that we can't not talk about would be like a used S2000.
Yes.
Bargains, right? Oh, maybe not bargains, but In 10 years, yeah, we're going to be talking about, remember when you used to get an S2000 for less than $20,000? It wasn't like, with over 250,000 miles on it. So I think that's a definite contender right there for lightly used. You can find them. They're out there. They are starting to creep up in price. Another Bring a Trailer one sold for, it was like 23,000 that had like 30 something thousand miles on it. So, but
yeah,
you
definitely.
got to pay to play. So
yeah,
those would be my choices right there. New, Miata.
Yes, exactly.
I'm sorry, MX-5, GT86. That's all I can think of.
Okay.
What about you?
So, Miata, of course, it's hard to not recommend that one. It's everything that everybody says it is. It's insanely fun, insanely gratifying to drive on a back road, but not practical really, unless you have another car. Right. So I'm always going to use that as my first go-to answer for this type of question. There's a few people out there that get sick of that answer, but there's a reason why everybody says Miata. So So that would be my first choice. But like I said, not insanely practical. Now the next one I was thinking about is something that hasn't been updated in a very long time. So I wouldn't buy a new one. I'd definitely buy a used one, and that would be a 370Z.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why I would suggest that is because it's still one of those cars that feels analog. It still has a really nice naturally aspirated motor. It's not techie. It doesn't have any like bells and whistles. So if you want to kind of like keep something that is a little bit more basic, find one of those that's, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old, and it'll be way cheaper than buying a new one. They're fun to drive. The engine sounds really good, and it actually has space to put stuff in. So, you'd have to be okay with like it looking old, because it is old.
Right. I mean, it still looks good. It's a good looking car. And I'd like to say too that I think once that car is discontinued and gone, it's going to become more, it's going to be looked upon like, oh man, it was around for a long time, but that was a pretty good car. It was like the last of its kind, basically, before they came extinct. It didn't have all the tech on it like I think we've all talked about before.
Yep.
But yeah. So
a lot of people hate on it now, especially automotive journalists, because they're just like, when are they ever going to update this thing? It's so old. But there's definitely a good car there. Aside from all of the people kind of hating on Nissan for just kind of letting it languish. Just don't get a new one, because you're wasting your money.
Exactly.
Find one that's 5 or 6 years old, where the depreciation is kicked in. You get the exact same car as a new one, and you'll have a ton of fun on back roads with that thing.
Oh, that's a really good choice. I agree with that one. I think I like that better than my S2000 choice.
Well, S2000s are great too, but that's one of those cars where I'm sort of wondering, like, there's probably a high quotient of those kind of getting maybe modified and maybe treated a little. Some hard miles on those. I don't know if you could find a really lightly used S2000.
Yeah, that's true. They were kind of put out there as like its purpose was to be driven hard.
Yeah.
So
Well, we got a few different ideas there for you. Nothing really outside of the box. Maybe these are kind of obvious choices, but they're sort of obvious for a reason. They're just really good.
Yeah, no, they are.
Yeah. Okay, so Trisv96 asks, after a long car project, do you prefer to get something sweet like ice cream, a drink, or a nice meal? So I will say this one was easy for me because I'm a terrible mechanic. So after working on a vehicle, I'm generally angry. So I need something to kind of like, take the edge off a little bit. So ice cream. No, actually whiskey. No, probably a Coors Light.
There you go.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it kind of depends. When we're working on Liam Neeson, we're generally drinking the whole time. So after we're done, we usually drink more. I got to be honest, but so yeah, I would say usually alcohol is related to fixing a car. In my case,
okay, all right, that works.
Yep.
With me, it's not alcohol and it's not ice cream. It's food, but it's not necessarily a nice meal. Like, if I'm in like a full day project doing something, like it's like the first time I've been doing this particular repair or something on the car and it just takes me all day. Yeah, I'm usually pretty pissed off at the end of it too. And I like to eat consistently throughout the day because I have to eat my body weight in food to stay alive.
Sure. Yeah. Makes sense.
So
Science.
I'll go for something like not a nice, I mean, what I think is a nice meal, but many people don't. It's like I'm going to Jack in the Box and getting 4 or 5 4 or 6 tacos.
Sure.
Just to sell them in 2s. And, some other fast food horribleness, and just that'll be my happy place right there. Some fast food or some In-N-Out, that's usually my, or Wingstop. That's usually like my victory dance, as I'll call it, after I've like completed a big, huge repair, done a big job on a car. Yeah. Horrible fast food. That's my choice.
Okay. All right. So, Hove.ab, he asks, engine swap question time. Pick one of your cars. Pick an engine from that brand's lineup that you'd most want to swap into your car. Pretend like it's a direct bolt-in swap, with the only caveat being that the new engine's orientation has to be the same as the one it's replacing. So transverse for transverse, or longitudinal for a longitudinal. So what did you have do you have any thoughts on this?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've actually put quite a bit of thought into this prior to having this question asked, because, if we're talking with the charade, it's constantly a thing like, well, what if the engine does blow up? What can I put in lieu of it? Because finding a replacement's not going to necessarily be as easy as just ordering one from like some repair facility or something. So
sure. Yeah.
I guess with that, the thought would be to put in I'm going to screw up the name of this engine. It's a Toyota engine. It's a 1NZFE, or if I'm feeling saucy and have the ability to do this, a 1NZFTE. I'll let your imagination think what the T stands for in that. Yes. So, but that engine.
No, not turd.
It's not turd.
Turtle is really slow.
It's turtle. It's turtle.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I like my turtle charged motors.
Turtle charged motors. It's a great name for a used car lot. Turtle charged motors. But the 1NZ motor, that's the motor that is used in such Toyotas as the Scion XB. I think you're familiar with that car.
I sure am.
The Echo, Yaris, they've all had this engine in it. And yeah, it's not a super sporty engine, but when we're talking, 105 horsepower, 101 or 98 pound-feet of torque into the Charade, which as it sits, brand new, had 55 horsepower. Yes. That's a screamer right there. So that would be my engine swap of choice, would be that 1NZ. And there's tons of them out there. It's not like it's a hard engine to find. And, even with the stipulation that, it should be a bolt-in swap, I actually think it probably would be not bad. So we'll see. I hope I don't have to do it one day, but it is pretty much the prime candidate that's I've been researching for a couple years at least to drop in if need be.
Okay, well, that's kind of an interesting thing, because I was thinking about my Scion XB, swapping out my motor out of that. So why don't I just, before my Scion XB motor dies, I'll just give it to you.
Oh, okay. All right.
And you can just have it. It's got 225,000 miles on it. So it's not that, maybe not that healthy. Burns a little bit of oil.
But it's
actually
the same,
nothing. But
at the same time, though, it would be easy to rebuild that engine because all the parts are readily available. Sure. And it's not going to be some huge process. So I'll take it. Sure.
Yeah. So I'll
put it on the stand and get it ready. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. So that, have you driven a Scion XB?
I have once.
You have? Okay. Well, you should drive mine, because it's not any different than a stock one, but you can do burnouts and stuff if you want. So that motor, it's fine. It certainly does not make the Scion XB fast in any sense of the imagination. I mean, it is quicker than my Prius, my wife's Prius, but that's not saying much, because I think that's 0 to 60 in like 10 and a half seconds, which is like an eternity, even by like the standards of my 80s cars. So, so that motor, it's been super reliable. But I would probably toss it. If that engine ever died, I'd probably toss it. And then I would say, okay, what other motors did Toyota have that same year? So mine is a 2005. I would go with the motor that was in the Corolla XRS.
Yes.
So you're probably familiar with that, right?
The 2ZZ.
The 2ZZ. So this motor was a 1.8 and it made 180 horsepower. And I guess I found this out. I just took a quick look on Wikipedia. It was a rare 100 horsepower per liter, which was a pretty big deal in 2005. So that's what I would swap in. So it's got maybe is it 8,500 RPM redline or something crazy like that?
Yeah, I think it depended on which car it was in between the Corolla XRS or the Matrix XRS, but I think it's 8,500 RPM. Okay. So it's a couple things here and there, and you can probably get it to come close to 9 too. So it's a happy little engine.
I like, the 4A GE and my Nova and my GSI, the super revvy motors that, that one has a 7,500 RPM redline. So I like motors like that just kind of scream up to those high RPMs. My Nova's not fast, but it sounds fast because it's always I'm always at 6,000, 7,000 RPM in that thing. So that would be a fun motor to try to swap in there. When they came out with the Scion XB, I feel like it should have had something bigger than the motor that it had. Obviously, it got great gas mileage, and when they did the second gen, I think they went a little bit overboard, and then the gas mileage went in the toilet. Right. So I feel like the 1.8 from this motor is kind of like the sweet spot for the Scion. I would really like to see how that would work in that car. That said, 180 horsepower in a car that only had 105. I'm sure it would not be fun. It's not a good handling vehicle. The weight distribution would probably be all messed up.
Right.
It probably understeer even more than it does. When I drive the Scion XB spiritedly, you can really feel the back end of that car just super light. When I'm going around some of these corners on back roads, it's the rear tires that are squealing, not the front.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is kind of just a giant box.
Yes. Box. Yes, exactly. So that would be my swap. And then I was thinking, well, what if I was also thinking that same motor, the 2ZZ, would be a perfect swap for my Prism, since the Matrix and the Vibe were both built in the same NUMMI plant in Fremont, California, as the Prism was. So that would that would be a nice swap for
family
that
reunion.
That tired 4A GE that I've got in the Prism. I would piss off all 7 of the Prism GSI purists by swapping out that motor, because it's one of 237 hatchbacks. But it would probably make a pretty nice swap for that car.
Yeah, no, it would.
Yep.
Man, those would be some screaming cars. That's what those would be.
Yep. Screaming, understeering
tires. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there was a guy who, a long time ago, he was selling a charade on Craigslist that had a Honda B-Series engine swapped into it. And I emailed him and I was like, not interested in buying the car, but please tell me what happened or what's going on. And he was very nice, emailed me back, and he said it was a B-Series. So I guess it would be a B16C. I think it was what came in the 99 to 2000 SI Civic, so C1, either or, about 165 horsepower. And he said it was great. The only thing is that the first charade it was in, and that threw me when I read that sentence. Basically, the car tore itself apart because it was not meant to have that much power. He said that the rear subframe is kind of tack welded onto the kind of the unibody of it's hard to explain how the Charade's rear suspension is set up, but it's kind of really weird and funky. But basically,
it's held together with cardboard and tape.
Basically, it tore itself off. So too much power. So it was pretty cool though. So, but yeah. 1NZFE.
Okay. There's a lot of alphabet soup going on in this podcast. Hopefully people are following along.
Well, they better be. This is part of the fun, is follow along.
Yeah. So Rob E30, spelled out, in case you want to follow him on Instagram. What obscure 4x4 would you use for an off-road build? This can include trucks, cars from other countries, the weird world is your oyster for this one. So, I don't know a whole lot about 4x4 vehicles from outside of the US. There's a few weird ones that I could mention, but my first thought was, I want to do something weird with a Subaru XT, that wedge-shaped vehicle from the 80s that has like the crazy like Buck Rogers kind of steering pod in the inside thing,
Yes.
And then I was thinking like so that's like on my bucket list of cars. There's also the Isuzu Via Cross, which I love. And then the Suzuki X90. I don't know if you remember that thing. It's basically like the Targa top 2-door 4x4 Suzuki. So weird. I love that thing. So those were the ones I was initially thinking. But then I was on Craigslist the other day, and I came across something that is built in Italy that was a very rare vehicle that was only sold here for a few years. And I don't know if I've probably only seen maybe a handful of them. So my choice would be, you want to guess? You
Rambo Lambo.
That is a good guess. That is a really good guess, but it's not that. It's the Laforza. Remember the Laforza?
No.
You don't remember the Laforza? Okay. I don't know a ton about it, but
Laforza.
Laforza. So it was Italian designed, built in, I think in the 80s to like early 2000s. So I think the Italian versions were named something else, like a Magnum or something like that. But this was marketed as a luxury 4x4. And it was kind of like the Italian Range Rover. And I've seen a few of them here. There's one for sale on Los Angeles Craigslist right now for like $4,000. And I was thinking, that would be kind of a fun like purchase for Radwood.
I've never even heard of this or seen it. I'm on this website I found called Wikipedia right now, looking at it, and I'm like, how did this elude me? You know what it looks like? It looks like they took the taillights off of off of the Nissan Stanza wagon.
Stanza wagon. I know, it does look just like those taillights, doesn't it?
Okay.
So apparently there was a bunch of different motors that this thing had in it, but I think they were the ones that were sold in the US initially were, was it like a Ford 351 or 5, or maybe it was just the 5-liter Ford Mustang motor.
Yeah, I'm seeing 5-liter, 5.8, and 6.0. So that would be like the 5.0, like
sure,
that, and then the 5.8 would be the 351 Cleveland. Okay.
And then I think later on, Weird. The 6.0 was a GM motor. They switched to GM with a supercharged motor. So I was thinking, okay, well, yeah, Italian built. I think the final assembly might have been done in the US, but Italian designed, Italian built, but with American mechanical. So I was thinking, well, that maybe wouldn't be too unreliable. Like, maybe not. I'm sure like the power windows and all the electrics are probably like terrible, but at least you could find parts for a 5-liter Ford motor. So
right.
The one that's for sale on Craigslist right now has the 5-liter Ford. So, and it's in pretty good shape, but like I said, I think the power windows don't work, and there's a few other weird issues with it. But it looks pretty rad. It's sort of like a not quite. I mean, I feel like the front of this car isn't the greatest looking. It sort of looks like it's a hobby shop build, but the profile in the rear just kind of look like a Range Rover from the late 80s, early 90s.
I wonder how big this thing is, like in comparison to other cars, because like it almost looks like a lifted like old Fiat Panda, but it's probably bigger than that. I think
it is. Okay. Yeah, it's about the size of the Range Rovers from the 80s.
All right, this thing's pretty rad.
Yeah. So apparently this thing is not terrible off road. Apparently it's pretty capable off road. So I think originally these cars started off as a military off-roader.
Okay.
This is something I probably should have done some research before. I didn't really have a whole lot of time to think about this, but yeah, it's pretty neat. I'm sure they only sold like 10 of them in the US. It's pretty neat. It's pretty cool that they're just a strange, obscure vehicle that they tried to make work in the US. And, this never really did very well.
And this is right here live on air. I've never heard of this. I've never seen this. This is knowledge coming into my brain as we're recording. This thing is really cool, Ethan. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yours is way better than mine. I'll tell you that.
Oh, I don't know about that, but
this thing's so cool.
I do think I might have to buy one of these things. I've been following this Laforza on Craigslist for a while because the price was like $5,000, and then last week it was $4,500, and then this week it's $4,300. So if I could go in there and maybe like, hey, I'll give you $3,500 to take this car off your hands that I know you don't want on your lot anymore because nobody cares. This is a car that like nobody cares about this.
Right.
Not even when it was new, there was people that wanted to be different and they bought this thing. And of course, the one for sale has like a Ferrari emblem put on the back of the thing.
Yeah,
you know,
it's Italian.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but it is. Yeah, I don't know.
It's exhausting.
So the only other one that kind of crossed my mind was and I don't know anything about this car, but it was I'm sure you do because it has some Daihatsu connections. Was what was it called? Oh yeah, so there was the Bertone Freeclimber.
Okay.
Have you heard of that one? I'm just like throwing all this stuff right at you.
Knowledge coming into my head. I have not.
Okay, so there's some Daihatsu connection here. Apparently, this is a Daihatsu Rocky, I think.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking at it right here. It is a Rocky.
It's a Rocky, but it's branded as a Bertone with a BMW motor.
What the
And there's also some sort of Toyota connection here, too. Or is there? I can't remember. But basically, this is a Daihatsu Rocky with a weird Italian badge on it. It doesn't make any sense. Like, because I don't know, there weren't, I am not too well versed in Bertone and how many vehicles, what types of vehicles they had going on in the 80s and 90s, but I would have never guessed that this was one of them.
I'm getting more and more points docked off of my president of the Daihatsu owners and enthusiasts and restorers of America title. I've never heard of that. That's crazy. But that thing's pretty cool. I mean, yeah, it's definitely a Rocky, but with all that extra stuff, that's, it's funny because not to do a Daihatsu derailment, but let's do it. We always do that because they worked with De Tomaso, another Italian car maker, coach, builder type, company that made things like the Pantera and other cool things. But they worked a lot with De Tomaso with the Charade when they were preparing to get into Group B rally in the early 1980s. And so it's kind of interesting that they worked with them, and then here they go again with Bertone. It looks like, just in the early 90s to do some sort of little funky, weird free climber thing with a BMW engine in it. But, well, I guess I have to add a new chapter to the book I'm going to write. So, yeah,
sure, exactly.
Well, that's cool. Those are some really cool choices. Those would be.
I just want to know how, I want to know more about the decisions that were made for both of those vehicles, like why Bertone? Why, what was the rationale behind that? And who really tried to make that Laforza thing just work for years and years? They just tried to make it work. And I mean, maybe they did okay. They sold a handful of them every year. I don't know, but anyway, so those are my two weird, obscure ones. You're gonna go Daihatsu Rocky for yours?
It's not even that weird or obscure. But I've always had this. Well, not always, but ever since the overlanding thing had kind of come up. 7-8 years ago at least it's been. And I always thought, it would be a really cool overlanding car because I've never seen one. A Toyota Previa Overland.
Well, they got the all-wheel drive version.
They do have an all-wheel drive one.
And so that would be
it would be, need some modifications and I think that would be just something people would be like, cool. What the hell is that thing doing out here? Or, I just seeing it with a tent on the top and all this other stuff. Yeah. It would be super cool.
Now I'm going to start searching for Toyota Previa lift kits.
Yeah, you might have to.
Sure, there's probably something there.
Use some wood or something, you do tennis balls in the springs. Yeah, it'll work. No, but I'm sure. I'm actually sure there's probably some stuff out there because the Toyota Previa is one of the greatest cars, technically vans ever made. And I'm sure there's a very large community of people that I haven't really kind of gotten into to like see if there really is like a lift kit for these things, but it wouldn't surprise me. So yeah. It's not very odd and unique and newly discovered to me, but it's
pretty odd and unique.
But yeah, that would be my choice.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that is an odd and unique one. It's definitely it's a good vehicle, and it's maybe not uncommon. I mean, I do still see those, when I'm searching for there's the Facebook algorithm when I'm on Facebook Marketplace searching for stuff I shouldn't buy. It knows I like Previas. Like I don't even click on them, and it's like, hey, I think you want a Previa, and it's like somehow it knows I've never posted about Previas. Somehow, just in their algorithm, like this is the kind of person that would probably dig a weird minivan from the 90s.
Yeah, well, that works. It's the same on OfferUp. Like, well, I search for them though, but it every day I'll get a notification, new Previa results for you, and I'm like, oh, look, that one. Ooh, look at that one, and it's just like, one of these days I'm going to pull the trigger on one of those things and get in a lot of trouble. But you know what? It's going to be so damn cool.
Yeah, make sure you get the all-wheel drive one, the all-track. There's a few of them for sale right now. They're all in kind of terrible condition though. But
they all are.
At least on Los Angeles area.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. What do we got here? The next question. The Blue XB asks, Mitsubishi Mirage, Pontiac G3, or Hyundai Accent, all base models with manuals. Which would you choose?
This was a tough one for me.
I know, it's like hard to think. Which really inexpensive Econobox from the 2000s?
Yeah.
2010s.
And again, 2010s, and I'm assuming the Mitsubishi Mirage is like the new Mirage, like that's out now.
I think that's what he's going about.
Okay. So, which is great, and I love that car to death. But I think the G3, because my reasoning for that is thus: it is very rare. They didn't build a whole ton of them. It was, just a badge engineered Chevy Aveo, but it had the Pontiac face to it, so it had the Pontiac grille, and it looked really good. I remember seeing a couple of them back when I was working at CarMax come through, but it was extraordinarily rare to see one. I think they were kind of more prevalent and this is a weird thing, but I guess they sold really well in Canada versus the United States, which they had the Aveo as well, but I guess they just preferred the Pontiac version of it. So So yeah, I'm gonna say G3 on that one.
Okay. Yep.
Just for the oddness factor. Yep. Yeah. I mean, that would be some future Redwood-esque show catered to 2010s cars. That would be a great one to bring one day. Oh, a Pontiac G3. It's not the Aveo.
Yes.
It's the Pontiac version. So, and it looks good too. I mean, for me, but we all know my standards of cars are. So yeah.
Well, the fun thing about the Aveo, the G3 is that was badge engineered for a lot of different names too. There was a few different Chevys. It was named. It was a Daewoo. I think it was a Holden. Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of you could badge engineer your badge engineered G3 and turn it into a Daewoo, whatever it was, Kalos or something. So I would go with the Accent, but I would pick like the 2001, 2002 model hatchback. So going back a little further. So the only reason why is there's one parked in the parking lot over by where I work, and I just see it every day, and I'm like, that's just a really weird, oddly proportioned vehicle. It's kind of like the back, the hood looks too long, the back looks too bulbous. It's really kind of an ugly car, but I like weird stuff, so I would go with that. Yep.
I think
2002 Accent.
2002, I think that was the year they were running those in their first run through at WRC, the World Rally Championship. They were using those as the base car for the rally car. And everybody's like, what is this doing here? But, it did okay. And then they pulled out. But as of last weekend, Hyundai actually won their very first World Rally Championship overall championship for a manufacturer. So congrats to them. Good job. So you should buy that car and paint it up like one of those rally cars.
Whoa, that would be cool. I'm looking at them right now, and I'm trying to figure out like how I get one of these things. Get some lowering springs, some mud flaps, a big wing on the back.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, 2000 Hyundai Accent World Rally car livery.
There you go.
Pretty sweet. It's funny because speaking of liveries, I found a pretty nice Dodge Stratus because last couple of weeks ago we talked about that your Dodge Stratus race car. There's a Dodge Stratus for sale on Craigslist on Los Angeles. As everybody, the listeners can tell, I spend way too much time looking for cars on Craigslist. But it's like $1,200. I still have some money burned in my pocket from selling my truck. I still have there's just a bunch of cash sitting over here in my studio that I should probably put in the bank.
It's all on the card table. It's just stacked up in a pyramid. Yeah.
It's literally a pile of cash. I'm like that old person that I don't trust banks. But yeah, it's just sitting there. So I was thinking I want to buy that I think it's a 99 Strata. So this is Radwood approved, Radwood era. So, 1980 to 1999. Buy that, put some nice wheels on it, paint it up, rattle can job of the Dodge Stratus race team from that era, and then bring it to Radwood, LA. I don't have enough time or energy or skills to do that, but that's kind of an idea.
It would be cool. Now, here's something really funny that I should have just blurted out at the very top of the show. I saw the other day, driving the opposite direction on the freeway from me, a Dodge Stratus in that livery.
What?
I'm not joking. I'm dead. It wasn't a dream. I wasn't like drinking. I was like, I was actually going to the paint shop to get the paint for the charade. And I was like, holy crap, that is a Dodge Stratus in the livery from that, whatever, I already forgot what the series was that we talked about.
I can't remember.
But I was like, how random is that? There's somebody out there. Maybe, you know what? I bet you they listened to our show.
Yes, and they listened to our show.
They went out and did it.
Immediately painted their Dodge Stratus.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's the way to do it.
That's
good for them. Good for them. I should have given them a sticker.
Thanks, listener.
Thanks.
Yes. All right. Awesome. So Grandma's Civic SI asks, Volvo 240, late 80s, early 90s Civic, or late 80s, early 90s Corolla. Which would you choose in terms of reliability? When I think of Volvos from the 80s and 90s, I think more durability versus reliability. Again, I'm not a expert. I have never actually owned a Volvo, so you can take my opinion with a whole bucket of salt. But that's just kind of the general feeling I get from people that I've known that have owned Volvos. Kind of like beat the hell out of them. They'll survive, but maybe not the most reliable cars. Not terribly unreliable, but maybe not known for that. And as somebody that has owned a few, late 80s Toyotas, and one of essentially my Novas were Toyota Corollas. So I've owned a 86 Nova and I got my Nova twin cam. I definitely have to go with the Corolla, just because I got the firsthand experience with them. They've been insanely reliable. I mean, I can't say too much about the Nova twin cam because I don't drive it enough. But the 86 Nova that I had back in the day was just stupid. Like I could beat the crap out of it. It was durable and reliable. I just treated it like crap. I didn't have enough money to like fix it properly, and it just kept going. Right. So yeah, and I've never actually. I just realized. Maybe I just realized this now, but I've never owned a Honda. So yeah, so I can't really speak to the late 80s, early 90s Civics. I've always liked I don't know which generation it is, but 94. Right when they switched to the kind of round design. Is that when that started in 94?
91, 92, depending on market and body style, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So I always liked the 90, 93, 94 Civics. The weird headrests that kind of had like the little L shape, and that's probably my favorite generation Civic of all time is that generation.
I would, that's funny. I would say the same thing. I really like that generation. I'd love to own one of those, but at the same time, those are the cars that get stolen all the time. So at least here in the Los Angeles
still get
area.
Stolen?
Yeah, they do. It's still like the number one cars that get stolen are always like, the 94 to 96 Honda Accord and like the 91 or 92 Honda Civic to, it's always there. It's just they basically engineered them to be stolen. So, but yeah, I think for me, I'm on the same boat with you with the Volvo stuff. Like my experience with them, I don't have any experience with the old stuff, just the newer one, like my sister has. And, it's been reliable, but it's like, it's scary. And then, I've only just owned my very first Honda, less than a year with my Fit.
Sure.
And the Daihatsu is kind of like a Toyota, but I think both of those would be a tie for the late 80s, early 90s for reliability. They're both exceptional choices.
Sure.
I think the Honda, you'd have a bit more fun driving because that's when they really made good shifters in their car. They still do, but like that was like the heyday of the super notchy, like perfect shifters. Even though it's a crappy runabout Civic, it still had like a really nice to use shifter.
Yes.
So yeah, if we're going to talk to like that generation of Civic, yeah, the hatchback, whatever, it's not really called an EG. I guess it's an EG. I'm not sure. The little egg one.
Yes.
One of those all the way. That's one of my favorite Civics of all time. I'd love to own one. And I'd love to also have a pristine low-ish mile one that's in showroom condition. That would be awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
And that turquoise color too. So
yes, exactly. It has to be turquoise, or that would definitely be my number one choice. Second choice would probably be the purple you always see.
Oh yeah. The purple one's good too.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So Isaiah Vaughn asks if you can go back into time. What brand new 80s car would you go back and buy for the original retail price? So what did you have for this? What do you think about this one?
So this one, I actually had a lot of ideas, but I'm just going to talk about the first one that popped into my head, and that would be the 1983 Nissan Skyline. How do you want to say it? 2000 or RS 2000,
sure.
RSX, the one that had I've gushed about many, many times before.
Sure.
That was at the Radwood Las Vegas show and a few other places. Those are really cool cars. I mean, given I'd have to fly to Japan, but if I'm talking like I'm bringing money left over from 2019, it's easy to fly to Japan and cheap and to buy the car and like just bring it back. So, but yeah, I think that would be it. I tried finding what the original MSRP on those, and it's really hard to find that information,
sure.
But I'd be hazard to guess like in $1984, with the conversion, $15,000 to $16,000, which isn't a whole hell of a lot of money, but back then it was because that was like the top of the line Skyline that Nissan offered. It was like the RS Turbo, so it was the sporty one with the super awesome 148 horsepower turbo engine that was in it. But it's for me with that car, and I've said many times before, it's the way it looks. It
looks awesome.
It's such a cool looking car. I love that car to death. And I think, with all the choices I could have done, that would be my choice.
Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned that because I didn't really think about this question too much. We didn't have a whole lot of time before the podcast to really prepare. So I was initially thinking, what about the Nissan Maxima SE, like the 89 Maxima? And then after that, I was like, oh yeah, you got to go JDM. So I was thinking kind of along the same lines, the R31. So I would probably get the exact same, the same deal. Just that super boxy shape, just awesome looking. Just wouldn't be able to register it in California.
No, but if we're talking like, having, whatever the situation would be, we'll figure out a way. It's the 80s then.
It's
anyway,
the 80s.
So we're bringing it back.
Yes.
That's how we'll do it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sweet. So
we like skylines. Weird skylines.
Exactly. I'm gonna try to find one and try to get it registered in California, or do something stupid and form a Montana LLC and register it there. No, I won't do that. But I really have to find a way to get one of these vehicles in California without paying a ton of money. They need to change the smog rules for hobbyists that just want to have these vehicles here. It's not like bringing in 100, 200 more skylines into California are really going to affect the smog that much. Right. It's everything else. It's everybody else. So anyway, let's see. What's the next question? Jeremy Stume, not really a question, just a statement. Keep me in mind if you ever think of selling the GSI, in all caps. So I think maybe he really wants me to sell him the GSI.
One of 237.
One of 237. Check with me in a year, and if I haven't done anything with it by then, maybe I'll say, yeah, that's a project that I'll never get to. But it's actually kind of on track. I'm kind of on track getting that thing fixed. So not for sale at the moment, but it might be at some point. It's definitely not a forever car for me.
Okay.
The Nova Twin Cam, on the other hand, I don't really have any intentions of selling that one. I love that. But the Prism GSI, I'll sell it at some point. But I do want to kind of fix it up first.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yes. I will sell it at some point, but there's going to be just a group of 4 people clamoring for this GSI, willing to pay me top dollar of $1,500. I'll give you 1501. Yeah, it's gonna be nuts. Bidding war.
It's bidding war.
I'm gonna walk away a thousandaire. So okay, Devin Finsley on Facebook, he asked, "What is your guitar of choice?" Well, this is a good question because we both play.
Yes.
So, what about you?
Well, recently I was reacquainted with a guitar that I bought in 1997. It was a 1996 Fender standard Stratocaster made in Mexico. Nothing too special, but it was my first like nice guitar that I had, coming off of a Squier like Bullet series guitar. So yeah, it was a very nice guitar, and I had it for many years. I went through a period of time when I was buying a lot of guitars because that's what I did, and it always was still there. I never really I kind of went away from that style guitar and was playing some more, humbucker type guitars. And a couple years, ago, when I had a band, one of my band members was like, "Oh, I'll trade you a bass for the Strat." And I was like, at the time I was playing bass and I was all about the bass. And I was like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Well, fast forward to earlier this year, and he got bored with the guitar, and he's like, "I'll sell it back to you." And I said, "How much do you want?" And he told me the price, and it was ridiculously low. And I said, "Yeah, okay, sure." And he's like, "Well, I modified it." So it still looks the same, but it's all been reworked inside. It's got some really sweet kind of 59, I think, is the year they were supposed to be, the type of pickups that are in it, but they were hand wound and stuff. So it's awesome.
Nice.
Plays great. That's my guitar, my Strat.
Okay.
It's Lake Placid blue, if you're wondering.
Yes. And it's funny too, because guitars are interesting in the sense that most musicians are still playing instruments that were designed in the 50s and 60s. So these are shapes that have been around forever. Like if you were to design like a new like modern looking guitar, everybody'd be like, "Whoa, like I want this thing that looks like it's from the 60s."
Right.
And it's kind of a weird thing that musicians have. It's like it's definitely a style thing that I don't quite understand. It's like there's not many other times when you're like, "Yeah, I want to watch TV on a TV that was built in the 60s." Like, no, you don't want to do that.
Right.
And some people obviously want to drive cars that were from the 60s, but there's many, many other things in life that have progressed, and guitars are like, nope, same stuff. Been doing the same stuff for 50 years. So it's interesting. But so the guitar, my main guitar of choice is I think it's a 94, 90, somewhere around there. It's a Fender Toronado. So it's a very rare, not very rare, but pretty rare. They didn't make too many of them. They made them through the 90s. It kind of looks like a sort of like a Jazz Master, kind of like a little bit like a Mustang. It's kind of a weird offset kind of thing. Yeah, and then they discontinued it. They brought it back again in the 2000s, but they just never really sold very many of them. So that's my guitar of choice. It's got 2 humbuckers. I know very little about guitars. Well, you think I should know more because I work for an effects pedal company, but I just play what I like, and I don't really care what kind of it's if it sounds good, if it plays good, I don't really care what it is. It doesn't have to be expensive. I don't really care what brand it is or whatever. So this one, I bought it for $250 back in the 90s, like 97.
It's a deal for that.
Yeah. It's worth a lot more now. I got it from this place called, I can't remember the name of it, but it was this place on La Cienega, Black Market Music on La Cienega in Los Angeles. And that was kind of a really cool store of just weird stuff, like old synths, just like piles of drums in the back. It was really kind of just a mess, but it was pretty neat. And it was a place that had a lot of people would bring their stuff there and sell it on consignment. And then one day, they just disappeared. Everything was gone. Like they just went out of business, and apparently a lot of people's consignment stuff was taken. And it was kind of a big deal. But I bought my guitar like a few months before they went under. So I apparently had some sort of shady history with that company. But anyway, yeah. So that's my guitar of choice. I love it. I'll never get rid of that. Kind of like my twin cam. Those are one of the few things that I'm going to keep.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good.
So a little music diversion there. If people are interested in guitars, or we should have given you a little like skip ahead 5 minutes if you don't care about guitars. So anyway, well, music's a part of driving and about travel and have cars. You want to have a good music playing in your vehicle. So
exactly.
We have a few more.
Okay.
Let's see. Nick Hernandez asks, what are your thoughts on the final Numicorn, the Numicorn from the Numi plant in Fremont, the Pontiac Vibe? If you feel like you'd enjoy the Vibe GT's high revving 2ZZGE and 6-speed manual. That's funny because we were just talking about the 2ZZ. So yes, I'll take one. I'll be looking on Facebook or Facebook Marketplace for one.
Mm-hmm. I like that car too. Yeah. I think I'm more of a fan of the way the Matrix looks. That first generation Matrix. It kind of looks like it looks like a guinea pig as a car.
Yes.
Kind of like a big potato. It does. But there was a friend that we did a track day with that had one of those Matrix XRSs with a 6-speed in it, and I was just I didn't really understand what it was at the time, and I was like, my Mini Cooper is going to be going so much faster around the track than his freaking Matrix. No, that did not happen. That thing hauled ass and sounded amazing. So yeah, I'll take one too.
Yeah,
that's my thought.
I haven't seen many of those available. I every once in a while I'll come across one, but haven't seen one in a long time. So I probably with you, I do prefer the Matrix, the styling of the Matrix a little bit better, but I'm sure that the Vibe, you'd probably be able to come across one of those a little bit cheaper than the Matrix.
Most likely, yeah, because the association with it's a Pontiac, not a Toyota, even though it's the same thing. But that would take the price down a little bit on it, I think.
Yes. So Glenn Kirtley asks, how is that 944 turbo? And I responded to him on Facebook with a laughing emoji because it's still not here yet. It's still in Reno and it's up there. And hopefully if I can convince the co-owner, Mr. Brad, to maybe perhaps drive it down here when he's coming down for Radwood SoCal, I'll see if I can try to convince him to do that. Otherwise, I'm taking a couple weeks off to go visit my family in Massachusetts. So maybe after that, I'll head back up there and try to grab it again, see if I can make it back home. So
there we go.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a sore subject, but I'll get it eventually.
It'll be done eventually.
Chris Hollinger from the YouTube channel East Coast Classics, he asks, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? And, the first question I would ask is if it's African or European. And then if you're lost, then you've never watched Monty Python. And we're going to move to the next question. Brad Hansen asks, I'm going to just repeat my question for last time. Now that you hopefully have a solid answer, which is not true. You do, but I don't have what do you guys bring into Radwood December? And I think we talked about this last, maybe. Something like that. You're bringing the Daihatsu. I have no idea what I'm bringing.
The Daihatsu, yes. The Daihatsu with a freshly painted hood and not much else different besides the freshly painted.
Bring a couple of Daihatsu brochures or something.
I will.
Yeah, there you go. And then he has another question. What's your all-time favorite Corvette? And it can be something other than mine. Swear I'll be cool. So he just bought a 96 Corvette. I'm spacing on what the special edition is.
Grand Sport.
Yes, I think that's what it is. Yeah.
96 would be the Grand Sport. Yeah.
And that's the last year of the C4, right?
Yes, last year of the C4.
Okay. So yeah, that looks super cool. I know he wants to, when I get my 944 turbo down here, he wants to trade keys, which I'm very excited about because I don't know how I've gone about never driving a C4.
Right.
Never driven one. So I'd be pretty excited to see, by 96, how many of the kinks did they kind of work out,
Oh man, favorite Corvette I would say is the C4. And I mean, I know the ZR1 is a very special car, and I would probably enjoy that car the most. But overall, I think my favorite one would just kind of be the basic, like a C4, but it has to be that turquoise color that they had.
Yes.
This is the second time we've talked about turquoise in this show today. But
turquoise all the cars.
I remember seeing one of those, like when it was brand new, driving around. I was with my dad driving somewhere, and I saw that car, and I was like, wow, that's a really cool looking color, and that's a really nice looking Corvette. And it's ever since then, I've always been like, yeah, that color. I love that turquoise Corvette.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yep. So I would have to go C4 as well, but I prefer the earlier ones just in terms of aesthetics. So,
okay.
I would go 19.
The kink in the back. Yeah.
Yeah, I would go 1984. First year. That was the first year of the C4, right?
Isn't that the one with the really bad engine though that's in it?
Don't care.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. I don't really care about the driving dynamics or the engine or whatever.
Well, I think it has like 130 horsepower. That's why it's like got some funky stuff going on with it. I'm just saying.
And it's funny. Yeah, that's funny because I don't really care. I wouldn't buy I probably wouldn't buy an early C4 because I think it's going to be like amazing and like great, like example of automotive and engineering. I would probably buy it because I want the looks. I believe the 84s have the digital dash, right?
I think so.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I think
I would want that. Mainly for me, it's about the aesthetics and about the nostalgia.
Okay, if you put it that way, then you can get over the. I don't know if there's. I could be completely wrong on that engine. I'm sure all of our Corvette.
Sure, Brad's gonna come in and be like, nope, you're wrong.
You're wrong. Yeah. But I'm with you on the crazy gauge cluster that's all like looks like it's out of Tron, and the thing's awesome.
Yeah, and I guess I'll have to really take a close look at his C4 because they did a lot to kind of like refine it and kind of make it look newer, even though it was 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like they did with the C3 over the years because that car got really long in the tooth by 82. So, I would say maybe in terms of just like bang for the buck, I'd have to go C5 because, I'm seeing those for sub 10,000 now for, obviously you got to get past the interior and just like the squeaks and rattles and all that, the kind of like typical Corvette stuff. But that I've got a few C5s in my Los Angeles Craigslist favorites list right now. There's one in Glendale for 10 grand that looks pretty cool. Yeah, I know. That's a pretty good deal, I'd say. For a really good handling,
bang for the buck for sure.
Yeah,
that's a car that can keep up with 911s and other cars like that at track days. For the most part, you can still have a ton of fun with it if that's what you wanted to do, and you're spending 10 grand versus the guy who's running, or girl, I guess, who would be running a 911 out there. So it is what it is. You put up with the squeaks and rattles, and you're still having a good time out there. So okay, C5. Yep. There we go.
Yeah. So then let's see what else do we got here, and then I think we have one question left. Indy F1 fan Marquis asks, "What's up with the McLaren, the Grand Prix?" Touched on that a little bit a couple weeks ago. Hopefully, going to get the brakes looked at. Last week I said it was going to be that week, and today I'm going to say it's going to be next week. So who knows what's actually really going to happen? But I do have plans to take it to a place that's going to help me get the brakes sorted out. So that's going to happen. It's going to happen.
And that's all it needs. Once that's done, it's basically ready.
Well, that and the turbo.
Oh yeah, that thing too. Yeah.
But there's some small little itty bits of progress being made with that vehicle. So
as long as there is. Cool.
Yes. So that's it. We got a lot of great questions.
Yeah,
we always get great questions, but those were all good.
That was a great round.
I think we got to most of them. I don't think we get to quite all of them in the hour, but definitely we'll have to do this again in a few weeks. So
for sure.
Sweet.
Very cool.
Sweet. So, where does everybody find you on the interwebs?
You can find me at Paul's Finest Hour on both Instagram and Twitter, and look forward to some hood progress pics this week. I've been cataloging it, so it should be fun.
Nice. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Mr. Ethan Tufts, and on YouTube at youtube.com/HelloRoad. And most recent video was on the Kia Soul GT line with a turbo motor. and I had a Ford Galaxy, 1966 Ford Galaxy video. And I'm working on everybody's going to be clamoring for this, a Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross video.
Yes.
I know. And probably another update video on the twin cam, the Nova twin cam. So that'll be fun for all the people that like obscure 80s hot hatches, not our hot econoboxes. Hot boxes. Hot box? Is that a thing? No, I don't think so.
We shouldn't go down the road.
I don't think so.
We can,
no.
That's two times.
Probably shouldn't say that. Yeah. Great then.
Awesome.
Okay, cool.
Thanks for the questions, everybody. Have a good night.
All right. Bye.